We are live. Welcome to yet another testimonial, this time from one of my most favorite members, Richard. He is in the South. He's a Southerner just like me in Tennessee. And Richard has an amazing story. We first came across each other's path. He first joined our community a few months ago. And Richard has been gracious enough to share one of his largest manifestations with us. Some of you who already are tapped into our community may have seen his story already, but Richard was able to manifest a lovely marriage, a union with the person, his love of his life. And what better way but to not only congratulate him again, but also to help those of you that are on that same journey hear his story, hear his authenticity, and let's just take it from there. You hear from the man himself. So thank you for being with us today, Richard. How you doing?
Doing great. Pleasure's all mine.
Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. So let's get the interview started. So what first attracted you to the community? Was there a specific video you saw, or what? How did you come across the Here Nor There community, and what attracted you to joining us?
Okay, so I had been kind of diving through YouTube quite a bit for a few months before I found Here Nor There. I was when I found you. It was I do believe the first video I watched was the one about wanting to get your SP back. Are you sure you want to get your SP back? Um, which of course led me to watch a bunch more of your videos. I was kind of confused. I'd seen a lot of different people talking, and some stuff was consistent, some stuff was not really explained very well. I just couldn't really. I was still having trouble figuring things out.
Yeah, yeah.
I believed it. I did believe it. I believed the testimonies of other people I saw and read about and things like that. But I couldn't figure out where the block was for me. And I've identified with you because you're a handsome guy, you're articulate, great beard. You know what I mean. Production on the channel was good. A lot of people do car videos and stuff.
Yeah.
Nothing wrong with that. There's great information from people doing it however they want to do it. Nothing wrong with that. But I just happen to like the way your videos were set up, the way you talked, the way you got to the point. I think sometimes they go off the cuff, and I think yours is very concise, and that really helped me a lot. So that was the first thing I liked. So I just binged videos. I watched, probably 3 or 4 a day minimum. At that time, I was still kind of sort of trying to figure out what to do with my time. So
Right. Right.
so I'd have the headphones on and just I'd absorb whatever I could. So I just watched a lot of your content, and that's when I really started to feel like I really wanted to. I think I need to zone in on one thing for a little while and just kind of ride that.
Wonderful.
So I
Wonderful.
stuck with you, and it worked out pretty good.
Wonderful. Yes, it did. Yes, it did. So even when I was a rookie back in the day, went down the YouTube rabbit hole. So thank you for the accolades about the production. I know that this is life changing material, and I think it deserves the production value. So I appreciate that you were able to not only be attracted by that, but to stay in the community as to that level of quality I try to deliver to you and other subscribers and members as well. So while you were going down that rabbit hole, what was your understanding of manifestation before we started working together, or even self-concept?
I think the self concept part was still a little bit of a loss. I was trying to figure out the mechanics.
Hmm.
There's all these techniques. Did I do the right, and did I envision correctly at night when I was going to sleep? All these different things. I just couldn't figure out how to know if I had it figured out.
Yeah.
And so I was still kind of not really sure. Like I said, I believed all of it, but I wasn't really sure how it worked.
Hmm.
Also, I'm a Christian guy myself. That's my practicing faith, and a little bit was like I was wondering if it was okay for me to even take some of this to heart because of that. So that was a block for me.
Hmm.
But I really was just in a place where I was just really confused. I think I'd heard a lot of different stuff. I'd even listened to a bunch of Neville Goddard talks. There's a bunch of those on YouTube that you can listen to, and I thought, well, all these people talking, maybe I just need to listen to Neville and see what he has to say. And Neville only had so much to say back then. I think there's been more discovered about concepts of manifestation now that Neville didn't really explain. So while he is some of our earliest teachings on the matter, and I got a lot from it, but I was still confused. So the
Definitely. Definitely.
confusion started to lift as I watched more and more videos as you talk about self concept. And also one another thing that you did that really helped me with the visualization was you actually did a video where you got out of the car. Like it was you did one like your lady took your hand and walked you. And
Yeah.
a lot of people have trouble with the vision thing, and
Mm.
that helped me a lot. I was like, okay, I kind of thought about it that way, but I couldn't really grasp it. But when you did it, it just connected for me. It just made so much. It just really connected a dot for me. So
Wonderful.
that was a
Love it.
very helpful breakthrough I had there with visualization.
Love it. Love it. Love it. Yeah, I had a large imagination as a child, so visualization came very easy to me. But as I started to work with people, I realized that most of us have been cut off from our imagination. We told ourselves as kids, or we're told that to leave that stuff behind. But yet, that's
Yeah,
the engine for us to bring in the life that we want. And
yeah.
even with Neville Goddard's work, because I have a Christian background, Southern Baptist as well, and sitting in church every Sunday, a lot of stuff didn't make sense to me. Some of it
Hmm.
did, some of it didn't. And when I stumbled across Neville's work, even though it's a heavy read, he was decoding these things that I always had questions about, because most of his work, if not the majority of it, was based off of the Bible and decoding it so we can understand how to use our imagination
Yeah.
to get the things that we want out of life. So wonderful, wonderful. Love that. Love that. So what was when you were going through this and connecting the dots, not only with the teachings that I passed along, but also with some of your previous experiences, do you remember there being a breakthrough moment where the dots connected, where you just had that click and things started clicking? Do you remember when that moment was?
Yeah. Uh, the When I learned about the map of consciousness, that really
Mm.
that helped me so much because I was able to understand it in mechanical terms now. I don't know. I think the lowest on the chart. I don't have it with me right here, but I think the lowest on the chart is shame. Maybe
It is. It is.
I think it says a 20 hertz vibration.
Mm-hmm. Yes, sir.
There's other things that started to connect dots for me in the Bible. Like things like there's a way that leads to death kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
I
Mm-hmm.
think some of these emotions that we struggle with are the things we do cause us to feel those things, and those
Yes.
ways lead to death. Part of my story is that I betrayed the trust of the relationship, and when she
Mm.
broke up with me, she did not know about that. That
Mm-hmm.
was something
Mm-hmm.
I had carried, and I had really in my mind affirmed our breakup for probably 2 years,
Mm-hmm.
carrying a secret, just going, she'll never forgive me. She'll never look past this. It's over. I've ruined it. Saying all those things actually, I think, brought about the end of our relationship,
Mm-hmm.
which led me further down this path. But I see now how I kind of manifested that breakup.
Yes.
Just by
Yes.
just by thinking that way, having those. I couldn't reconcile it within myself because I was afraid. I had a lot of fear in telling her the truth that she wouldn't
Mm.
accept it, and so I just kind of it just permeated into other aspects of my life. It made me feel dishonest. Like even things that I knew were true, I couldn't speak on because I knew that I had this lie that I was hanging on to,
Mm.
and I was really punishing myself for that. And when she broke up with me, the shame and the guilt that I felt was so heavy.
Yes.
I had suicidal thoughts. I wake up in fetal position, feeling just terribly awful about myself, and for what it's worth, a lot of people. I have a lot of friends, and a lot of people in the community are very kind to me and say great things about me. But in the area of relationships, I have always struggled with
Mm.
with deception and things like that. Having proclivities and things that I needed to work
Yes.
out.
Yes.
But all that to say that the map, when I started looking at the map, talking about self concept, how you feel about yourself, all these things, all those emotions, when you're spiraling down there in those negative frequencies, when you're not in love, I guess you'd say. I think courage is where it starts to go up.
Yep.
And if in order to have courage, you have to have love. You can't show courage without having love in that. So pride
Mm-hmm.
is beneath that. You can have plenty of pride with no love, but you can't have
Exactly.
courage without love. So I
Yes, sir.
think when you're in love, that's where you're in the proper state to start manifesting and drawing what it is that you
Mm-hmm.
really want. And so, understanding the chart helped me look at all areas of my life and figure out how can I stay in these elevated emotions? How can I get up here to acceptance, up here to love, up here to joy? And I would yo-yo quite a bit. Like at first, I'd wrestle with going back to being upset with myself, and then sometimes I'd project that on her. Part of the story, she had met someone, And
Mm.
come to find out, it was actually just a friendship, but it was something that was they were doing, and I made more of it than there was. So I've had a lot of anger towards her. All that anger was really anger I was feeling towards myself because I was the one who
Mm-hmm.
was guilty.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
But all that to say, I had to tell myself, Richard, you don't talk. I'd have these conversations with myself, arguing with her, arguing about things she did,
Mm.
putting blame on
Mm.
her. It's like, no, Richard, you've already resolved that you're taking responsibility for this. You can't put this on her,
Yes.
And so that would allow me to come out of some of those lower states when I was feeling that way. Um, and then from there, just by practicing, learning more about self concept, continuing to watch videos, working on my health, working on my money, all the areas of life that you really want to be sound. I just tried to sort of focus on all that, and I tried to. I had a lot of frustrations. Like if I drop something, I get really upset, and just blow
Mm.
my top about it for a minute. And I was learning about reacting and things like that. And
Mm-hmm.
how you
Mm-hmm.
don't react to those things. When you have emotions, you just need to feel them. And
Yes. Yes.
sometimes that's hard, but you get better at it, man. I want to
Mm-hmm.
throw stuff when I get angry, but the more I've done it, as more and more weeks are passing by, I'm finding myself able to take that deep breath and pull that reaction back in. And I think that shows. I think it shows God or the universe, whatever you choose to call, that you are trusting and you're patient and you're good with yourself. You're good with God
Mm-hmm.
within. He wants
Yes.
to be the number one thing in our lives, I think, and you're not going to manifest or have any of your prayers answered. None of that if you can't get to a place where on the inside you're good.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And
Yep.
that was hard. That was really hard to figure out.
Mm-hmm.
Is there what else would you like me to touch on? I'm not sure. I
Oh,
kind of
that
might
was
be
that
going.
was that was perfect. No, 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 that was perfect. You don't have to worry about going too long on this, and that was perfect.
Okay,
But
okay.
the map of consciousness, just for those of you that don't know, there's something that we provide within the self concept course, and Richard had the privilege of. Was able to take that, and within one of the modules I provide this map, if you will. It's a chart that tells you not only what color you're vibrating at, but also what frequency you're vibrating at. And of course shame is at the bottom, but at these guilt, shame, things of that level, that's when your energy is basically contracting. But once you reach courage, which requires fear, because once you are afraid and you step into doing the right thing no matter what, now you have stepped into courage and your aura starts to expand. And
Yeah.
think of it like a metaphysical net. And that's why we call it the law of attraction, because we're literally attracting or repelling things away from us. And or we're attracting in negative experiences. But as soon as you take the step for courage, which you may be used to doing things a certain way, feeding into limiting beliefs, feeding into negative behavior, feeding into your fears. And this is what is attracting more experiences to be fearful of, more experiences to keep vibrating at guilt and shame. But once you cross that threshold into courage, that's when you start to get into peace, love, acceptance, and forgiveness, which is one of the things I like to jump up and down on the trampoline about. This all works seamlessly with forgiveness. And also a testament to what Richard said about his experience is that he had to let go of how he used to be, letting go of that old state of being, right? And those are the stories that we want to hear from people. We want to listen. We want to hear those stories of transformation. We make Hollywood blockbusters about it where the superhero starts off weak or starts off a lower version of themselves and they become something greater, and it always comes through transformation. So Richard is a superhero in his own right because he went through this transformation process, and he ended up manifesting one of the biggest things probably he has manifested as a conscious creator. And let's segue into that. What and even the small things, but what are some of the larger things, the experiences that you manifested once you got into the better version of yourself?
Well, so the big one, of course, is I did get married. Uh, we had we had a relationship for like three. We was working on our fourth year when we broke up. Broke up for about 8 months or so, and we
Mm,
got back together, of course, and then we got married a couple months later. Because I didn't. My whole goal was to get back together to get married. We were apart, so I made a decision that I wanted to be married to her. That's what I thought would last in my heart. That's what I feel
indeed.
is the right thing, and I felt like that's what God would bless. Is
Yes.
my wanting to make that happen because I think that's in alignment with what He wants for us.
Mm-hmm.
So So there's that. Some things actually came after the fact. I just found myself being at a place where I was trusting so deeply that I was kind of free from worrying about how things were going to play out. So I made a couple moves on some things that might have made me some money. Or actually, we had a situation where we were going to move into a great house once we got married. We had this. It really lined up, and it seemed like something we both really wanted. We prayed about it. We said we wanted it, but I still had some I had some hangups after I made that decision, and I thought, well, I don't really want to back out because I don't think that would be right. But as it turned out, some things happened on behalf of that situation that got us out of that situation, and we were both very relieved from that. And I think
Wonderful.
that all comes from the trust that I had that
Yes.
things were just going to work out. I think a lot of times what we're after is some kind of thing, and really what we want to feel is a peace about things. You just don't want to stress or worry
Amen.
about stuff. And
Amen.
so, when I started having a little resistance in a couple things, I feel like the universe moved on my behalf because I was trusting because I'm in that state. And
Hmm.
it just feel and the synchronicities, all these things are telling me that everything's actually going the way that I really want it to. It's
Hmm.
made it very easy to just kind of accept all the circumstances, because there were times, of course, when I was trying to manifest my girl back that I felt like I'd see something, and it made me feel like it ain't going to work. It ain't going to work. But I would
Mm.
persist in that, and that I would no, you. If you love her, then why are you giving up? If this is
Right.
really what you want, does it really even matter? And when you get to a place where you're really good with God within, and your life and all the blessings you already have, you can want all day long, and you're good with not having because you already kind of have it. Like I got good at just riding around in my mind's eye, having car dates with her,
Wonderful.
dreaming about circumstances. When I would be unsettled, I would just think of her. She has two children that are now my stepsons. And I would think about them, and the
Wonderful.
ways they made me laugh, and the fun times we had. And I just kind of let those moments put me at peace because I had them. Those things
Hmm.
were there. They didn't go away because I thought they did when we broke up. I scorched everything and threw all our letters away, deleted every picture. I didn't want any reminders of it. But that was very reactive, and actually pushed her further away. I'm sure.
Mm. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
and when we talked about working things out, that's where all of me seeing how I had actually grown in all this actually became evident to me. Can I take a minute and tell the story of how we got back together? Like the
Please,
people of
please.
a
That's
couple.
actually what the next question I was going to ask you. Not
Okay.
only how you got back together, but because I remember our first conversation, and then you just went heads down. You started doing the work, and you popped back up the results. And while you were telling the story, I would love to hear how you felt before it came in. Like, how were you feeling internally before things worked out in 3D?
Okay, so when we broke up, it was September last year. I'm in a deep state of shame and guilt. A part of me felt she told me, we went to church, and the man speaking that night said, if you've been in a relationship for 3 years, maybe God wants you out of that situation. And I looked at her with a kind of like a look on my face, kind of like this, and I was suggesting, hey, maybe we need to get on the stick. She took it as a sign that we needed to break up. And so
Mm.
so I got real hard, you know what I mean? And I reacted, and like I said, I scorched everything, and we went no contact.
Hmm.
2 weeks after we broke up, I had been dealing with all the feelings. I was still in this deep shame, guilt, terrible depressive state. But it hit me. I needed to take accountability for the relationship. So I just sent her a quick apology that said, hey, I've had time to do some soul searching. My conscience has led me to a place where I understand how I let you and the boys down, and for that I'm truly sorry. And then I also said I'm really sorry for the way I handled the breakup. Um, I was just hurt or whatever, but I could have handled that so much better, and I apologize. I hope you're doing well, and that kind of thing. And we didn't talk for months, months,
Mm.
months, months. Now, during that time, I'm trying to figure out how to get her back. And at first, I was just getting conventional coaching from like dating coaches,
Right.
which had some great advice. Definitely some things. What I was really doing, Sean, was I was trying to find anything to give me hope every single day of my life,
Mm.
because I was
We all
feeling
been
like
there.
death. Yeah,
Yeah.
feeling like dying. Yeah, so if you're in that place where you're feeling like dying while you're watching this right now, it's going to get better.
It's gonna
Promise
get
you.
better. Promise.
Yeah,
Yes,
I'll
sir.
tell you how it's going to get better. Um, but anyway, so I was doing whatever I could, and then I found some, you can get your SP back manifestation type stuff. So at first I was like, I don't know, should I even mess with it? But I was desperate. So I found a few things that were sinking in at first, and got the concepts. And I remember a little bit of this from a couple years back, which I could tell you another story, maybe another day I will. But
Hmm.
because there's some things in hindsight I can see that I've manifested in life before I even understood any of these concepts, which just goes to show you that the laws are laws; they work. It's the way it is. How
Hmm.
you're thinking and what you're doing truly matters. Anyway, so clinging to whatever advice I could get to. The first thing I tried to start doing was working on myself a little bit. Everybody talks about that a little bit, but how deep into self concept, a lot of people don't go. They're giving you advice like they're your coach, but they don't know me in my specific circumstances. So everything they're saying is kind of just leading me to more questions. That's
Yeah.
where one-on-one coaching I think is valuable, because if you really
Mm.
can't figure it out, you can give your circumstances to someone and get a tailored approach that's probably going to work better for you based on what they understand. A lot of
Indeed.
these online coaches just couldn't give me that.
Mm.
But I was running out of money. I'd already paid for dating coaches. So I did.
Yeah.
I paid for dating coaches, and again, I did
Mm.
get some sound advice that made me reflect on myself deeply. So that was
Right.
good.
Right.
But anyway, I guess I really first started to feel good about it, because I needed something, and this was a circumstance that happened to demonstrate how circumstances can move on your behalf and you not see it. Inspired action, if you will.
Mm.
So one morning, these headphones, I wear them all the time because at the jobs I do, when I have downtime, I get to feed the mind. You know what I mean? And I had my headphones. I always bring them inside, leave them on the dresser. And this particular night, I was getting out of the car, and they weren't around my neck; they were in the seat. And I told myself, I better take those in. I said, no, I'm just going to work tomorrow morning. I'm just going to leave them in the seat. Totally, not even a big detail, right? So I come
Mm.
in, go to sleep, wake up next morning, go to work. As I get out of my car at work to open the door, I realize I don't have my headphones on. So I go back to the car to get my headphones. And when I come up from pulling out of the passenger side door, my ex was pulling out of the Hardee's next door. She got breakfast that morning. She saw me. She saw me. She saw. It was like probably three months after we broke up. First time she had
Mm.
seen me,
Yeah.
and I had lost a lot of weight at that point. I was on a very healthy diet at the time, which I've kind of slipped on lately, but
Mm.
Christmas time did that. We're getting that right. Don't worry. Don't worry. But anyway, she got to see me, and I looked good.
Yeah.
I looked
Yeah.
good, and we waved. It's the first time we'd seen each other since we broke up. Remember, we've had no words or anything at this point, but it was
Mm.
pleasant. She waved, we smiled, she went on. That would not have happened had I took my headphones in the night before, because I'd have had them around my neck when I went through the door, and she wouldn't have seen me.
Right.
That's just one tiny little thing, but these little things are actually happening. You don't even realize what's going on. When I found you, I was less in the depressive state. I'd made it through the holidays. I'd gotten to where I had some strength now, because Thanksgiving was very hard. I did
Of course.
Thanksgiving without her, without the family. It was the first significant holiday without them. And then Christmas came along, and I had a distraction during Christmas time. And so I got through that, and I was feeling a little bit stronger. Like, at least leaf life is going to move on. And that's when I found Here and We're There. And the
Mm.
self concept ideas, the self mastery course came out recently. All that stuff God, man, there's so much good stuff in there. And
Really.
and what I
Really.
really needed to work on was that deep stuff inside, where I love people, man, but I was still harboring a lot of resentment for some things that I thought I had really dealt with, and I hadn't.
Hmm. Hmm.
And so, I had to think about, my childhood programming, all the things. I fear abandonment and things like that when I'm in a relationship. That's always been a big one. Um, but I had to work on all that. I had to get to feeling like, hey, Richard, you're lovable. There ain't nothing wrong with you, And I've
Hmm.
made a lot
Hmm.
of mistakes, a lot of shameful mistakes, things I really do wish I could undo. I know a lot of people say they don't have regrets, but there's things I really wish I hadn't done because of not only the people that might have gotten hurt, but how it really hurt me, and I didn't understand that.
Exactly.
But I
Exactly.
but I forgave all that. I accepted it. I just said, you know what? It's all right that this terrible thing happened to you. That really is an embarrassment. But I don't have to assign that kind of embarrassment to it. I can really leave that in the past. And I'm even more comfortable talking about those things now because I've wrestled with them and I've forgiven those things and I've dealt with them. And so, sharing testimonies with people, especially on the private, because it's private matters and stuff, but you probably
Right.
gather where I'm going with this.
Hmm.
Those kinds of things are, I know people say, how can you forgive? A lot of people get in these, you can get shocked into a negative state and not come out of it because you won't do the things that pull you out of that state. You can
Yes.
live with your resentment, lets you stay
Indeed.
in that anxiety, that depression, that guilt, that shame. Those are survival mechanisms. I think it's called the survival paradigm that all those emotions are in.
That's what it is.
They're there for a reason. Like, when you're having anxiety, there's a purpose for it, but you're supposed to figure out the root of it and deal with it. There's a
Hmm.
reason why you feel shame. You're not supposed to do whatever it is you just did. So forgive yourself. Don't yeah, forgive yourself. Don't do
Yes,
that
sir.
again and move forward.
Yes.
And the further you get removed from feeling these things, the higher that elevation. For me, Sean, it really was just understanding that map. That map was my tool. Every time I felt myself, whatever state I'm in, I'm asking, where am I at in this state when I'm feeling bad? What can I do to get to this state that I want to be in? Um, sometimes for people that might be, that's why they say just keep living your life, doing things you enjoy, because they're going to elevate your mood when you're doing things. And your elevated mood means you're appreciating life. Your emotions are about enjoying life and feeling the blessing of it rather than being in the worry place or fearful place of, what's going to happen next? What happened yesterday? What's going to happen? You know what I mean? All these different, you're not in the moment. You're not really living in the moment. I think that's what I really learned was how to live in a moment. Uh,
Indeed.
you
Yes,
know,
indeed. Yes, indeed.
but
Wonderful. Wonderful.
yeah,
Yeah, that was. I love that testimony and forgiveness. We talk within this manifestation realm. We talk about quantum leaping and jumping into different timelines. Whether you want to go to more scientific way of thinking, or whether you want to go into parallel dimensions, things of that nature. And we brought up Neville Goddard earlier, and the thing that I love to teach that is not necessarily being taught is forgiveness. He mentioned it almost some 88 times in his books and his readings,
yeah,
and even to this day, I don't really see a lot of other sources talking about this. But yet, that is the needle, the eye of the needle that we have to go through in order to get into these different states of acceptance, of love, of peace, is forgiveness. Because,
yeah,
and you're a father yourself, we make mistakes. I'm a father myself. We make mistakes, and we don't make mistakes out of maliciousness. We make them because of our own fears or programming that came from us. So, as we want to be forgiven by our children, in the present moment and in the future, we have to forgive people who programmed us because they were just
that's right.
operating off of programming before. And
Yeah,
you're a testament to that. Even me sitting here, and I try to put the work out there, and I'm a testament to it, is forgiveness. I attribute being a master manifester because of my ability to forgive myself and to forgive others. And when
yes,
you unlock that, is
yeah,
we have to continue to push that.
yeah,
And I'm so glad that you embrace that message within our community, through the group coaching, and there's a specific module in the course why I dedicated just to forgiveness, because literally holding on to that state will prevent the things that we want from coming in our lives, right?
it's
So,
imperative.
yeah, it's imperative. And that was my next question, segueing elegantly into that. Was what was one of your teachings from the Here Nor There community, or from our one-on-ones, that really stood out to you? And I'm going to assume it was probably the emphasis of forgiveness, right?
Yeah, I think that was the like again. I thought I had always figured that part out, but
Mm,
I told on I don't. We had a call the other day, a group call, and I shared
mm,
this. I'll share it again here. Something that happened during this time. This is before my SP came back to her name's Kayla. Before
mm,
Kayla came back, a guy that I was friends with in high school, he did something to me, and it was bad. And even at the time, I just kind of ignored it and just wanted it to go away. I just kind of wanted to just kind of, and so and I continued to know him for years. And I thought after I got out of school, life moved on. I really felt like that was in the past. I felt like I wasn't upset about it. I felt like it just kind of happened. It's over now, and I kind of kept it. I kept it hidden from everybody I knew. I hadn't told anybody about it. But as I got older, it surfaced, and I think it was holding up. It was having a big block. Well, after I started thinking more about the concepts of forgiveness, and I thought about how I wanted her to forgive me, how because I knew I still had a big secret that I had to tell her whenever we finally did get a chance to talk. So I had to say, I've got to forgive. I've done something that she would not find forgivable if I'm not going to be able to forgive people for what they've done for me, to me.
Indeed.
So I actually thought that through and thought about this person, and I thought, I love him, and I hate that what happened, but I forgive that, and I'm not gonna, just by facing it and verbally saying it, I was addressing it. I had not addressed it like that. I said it. I got alone and talked to myself. Hey, Richard, that's okay. That happened. You can love this guy anyway. It wasn't. I guess I don't know. Maybe well, it was a couple weeks ago, right before she and I started talking again, I guess. Uh, he came into the business that I own and to order lunch, and I hadn't seen him in a long time. He looked terrible. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I'm sure decisions and programming and things, that's his state. Once you understand forgiveness, man, you see people in different states. You don't see people as
Yes.
bad people. You just see them as in different states. They're just not.
Yes.
They're not
Beautifully
their true
said.
selves.
Beautifully
And I
said.
looked at this guy, man, and you know, I went up to him and I put my arm around. I said, "How you doing?" I won't say his name. I put my arm. I said, "Man, how you doing?" And he said, "Oh, how you doing?" He's rough. And I hugged him. I hugged this guy. You know what I mean? That did something that you would find so egregious to do to another person. You know what I mean?
Right.
And I had a conversation with him, and and it was all right, Sean. It was okay to forgive
Beautiful.
him. I didn't
Fantastic.
feel nothing about it. I really didn't. I've been affirming for him. And thinking about him. Next time I see him, I want to see how good he looks and how he's got his life together and how maybe these concepts have reached him. He's had epiphanies or his mind's been open. Um, but I think you've got to get to that place, Sean. If you had
Got
the
to.
worst parents, if your dad beat you with a belt every day of your life, you need to say you love him and you forgive him. Because
Yes.
if you don't, you are still going to carry that, and it is going to pull you into survival state. It's going to
Yes.
pull you down into those emotions if you don't deal with it.
Yeah.
If you got a problem with the world, with the political view of the world right now, the landscape of the United States, you got to deal with it. You can't be hating somebody because they see things different than you. That's not serving you. It's not going to help you.
No.
If whatever it may be, if you got dumped for no reason, I got dumped for a good reason. I wasn't being the best version of myself. But if you're being the
Yeah.
best version of yourself and you got dumped, you got to forgive that. And you might need to look at them and ask if they're really on your level, if that's what happened to you. But in my case, I knew I had to get on her level. She was
Yes.
vibrating higher than me.
Yes.
And so, but the forgiveness concept, that's when you look at yourself differently, because when you see people for what they are, you get to feel good about you. I don't
Yes.
think you can. I don't think you can until you forgive people for things like that, man. If you
That's what
can't
it's
deal
meant
with the
for. Yeah.
worst, yeah, because everybody's going to project, and you're just projecting if it's still in you. You got to get it out of you.
Yes.
And so I think that's where, and the self mastery course has the forgiveness part and a lot of other concepts that you're going to love. Get in that if you hadn't done that yet. Um, all your videos have plenty of information to really to build on and make your own plan. I mean, I just kind of envisioned how can I take this and apply it to my life, and I was able to figure some things out. So. And with the help of the testimonies and the comment sections and the videos, so there's just I think I just stayed plugged in and got the right ideas and did the forgiveness, the shadow work, I guess you call it, inner
Yeah.
work, um, all the inner work, man. I mean, because that's what you're really trying to appeal to. If you think God is outside of you, you don't. I don't think you truly grasped the concept yet. It's on the inside.
Yeah.
What you're
Yeah.
trying to do is find God within. And that
Yes.
means a merciful, loving God forgives us for the things we do. So you got to be able to do that for other people.
Yes.
You know,
It's a must. It's a
um,
must.
it's an
And
absolute must. It's 100% most critical thing. For me, it was. That was the
Yeah.
breakthrough I really had, was forgiveness, man.
Yeah. And that's why I'm so glad to get your story and people can see it, see the person, see the man himself, hear it. And because it's one thing if I say it, but when they start to see that it's just actually having effects in people's
Hmm.
lives, that's enough to move mountains. And
Yeah.
even growing up in my culture and in my time in the late 80s, early 90s, growing up, mid 90s, late 90s, forgiveness was seen as weak. It was seen as
Weak.
like, no, you're supposed to
Weakness.
hold this grudge and make them pay and wish bad things on them. And no,
Yeah.
and I ended up bringing that into my life. But when I learned to
Yep.
forgive myself first, we always have to put our mask on. That's what they tell us on the plane. Put your mask on before you put somebody else's mask on. Save yourself first and then forgive others. And just to remind people who might have missed that, before Kayla came back in, you said this happened with this gentleman with the forgiveness. He came in first, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
And not just him. I mean, there was definitely other. I mean, there's just
of
other
course.
people that you don't really think it's. You don't think of how a little tiny grudge. That was a big one that I might have been carrying, but there are
Right.
little tiny ones too. The way people might insult you
Yes, of
on
course.
a very subtle basis that you pick up on, and you might be every time you see that person, you think. But if you can find it, if you can see past that and think about them differently, they'll change.
Yes.
They do.
Yes.
They
Yes.
change. They see you differently because you're not affected by that, and
Yeah.
eventually it just hits them. I'm not really treating them good. You're the mirror. You're showing them, and
Life is a mirror. Yeah.
I'm telling you, you can't be
Yeah.
reactive. It's
Wonderful.
hard sometimes. I'm not saying I'm perfect by any means, and if
Yeah.
and that's you slip. Like I said, you can yo-yo inside of those emotional states, but you want to be in the elevated states way more than you're down here. Because
Well said.
that, like I said, if you're drawing something, if you're drawing the things you want to you by being in a higher frequency, you need to be humming like a top. You know what I
Yes.
mean?
Yes. Yes.
You can't
Do
be down
you?
here in scattered chaos and all these emotions.
Yeah, can't be. Do you remember how you felt before Kayla came back into your life in the physical world? Do you remember how you felt internally before things changed for you guys in your life?
Yes, absolutely. So I after I was doing all these the forgiveness and stuff, I started to feel good about me. I was living in the moments, in my head. I was like, these are what I was wanting that life, but I was living it in my imagination because it wasn't here in the three dimensional. You know what I mean? And
Right.
I was feeling so good about things. To be honest with you, I had gotten to a place. I even told her this because I told her some of these things that I was doing when we finally got together and we got to talk these things out. I told her what I had been doing, and I remember I got to a place where I was feeling really good again. I got to a place where I was happy with myself. My businesses were picking up, and my relationships were getting stronger. My frustrations were diminishing, and I was feeling really good about myself. And she was nowhere to be found. She still wasn't in the picture yet. Everything was going great, and I was almost getting to a place because I finally got to a place where I said, I want her, but it's okay if I don't have her. If something else comes along, that's okay too. But I'm going to still want for her. That's why I say you're not giving up just because you're letting go. If you letting go is basically saying, all right, I don't need this particular thing to make me happy. It's my truest desire, but it's not, I don't need it. I don't need her to
Mm,
make me happy. If she
of
left me
course.
right now, if she said, hey, I made a mistake, I want an annulment, I mean, I'd be devastated for sure. But what I know, Sean, is that if she did that, I'm gonna be all right either way.
Yep.
And
It's a
and,
paradox,
and,
isn't
and
it? We get to that
it
point,
is, it
I'm gonna be
is,
okay, and then it never happens.
it is. Because I mean, now,
Yeah.
man, my worship life and everything is better because now I feel like it's God that I'm truly appealing to.
Yes.
That's my love life with her is an extension of Him. It is not Him.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So,
Mm-hmm.
so for me, I think that's where I got to, and lo and behold, the circumstances of her and me talking. Some people have asked me, so I'll tell you here. Um, her two kids, they have a cousin. Cousin ordered some Pokemon product. I own a game store in Elizabeth, Tennessee,
Oh.
and he ordered some Pokemon stuff for me. So he was supposed to come by and get it. Didn't make it by on the day I was open. I just so happened to be having an event on a Sunday that I normally do not have. So his dad calls and says, hey, can we come by and get those cards? Well, he just so happened to have Kayla's two sons with her. And I haven't seen these kids since we broke up. We didn't get to say goodbye. I hadn't seen them. I've missed these kids. I've been praying and missing these children. And they walk in, and I'm telling you, man, I was so excited to see them. I hugged them 3, 4 times. I'm sure they felt crushed, like physically crushed. But they visited
Yeah.
for just a few minutes, and everything was great. And so they left. Well, after they left, Kayla reached out. We haven't talked in I don't know how long. She reaches out and says, how are you doing, kind of thing. So we have a general little thing like that. And then she comes out of nowhere with this, like, hey, I know you tried to apologize, and I know it didn't seem like I received that or appreciated it, but I did, and I truly appreciated it. And I want you to know I'm sorry too. I just didn't want to
Wonderful.
give you false
Beautiful.
hope and all these things. And so basically, um, I basically said, well, I see things a little bit different, but that's cool if that's where you're at with it. And so she said, well, if you need clarity on something, I'd be happy to have a talk with you. I said, no. I said, I'm okay, but if you have something you'd like to talk about, I'm willing to have a talk too. And she said, well, it wouldn't be a one-sided thing, And I said, well, I want to be clear. I want to work things out. If you're good
Mm,
knowing that up front, then I'd love to have a talk. We should take a long drive. And so
mm,
she was kind of like, she didn't see that coming. She's like, well, I guess I'd be willing to hear you out, kind of thing, But
mm-hmm,
I don't
mm-hmm.
see how this could be any different. But she did make plans to meet me, so we met. We took a long 3-hour drive, and most of it was small talk on the way. But when we finally got to the real stuff, the first thing I did was own all the mistakes that I knew I had made before.
Accountability.
I
Yes,
got
sir.
I got the walls to come down. All this preparation that I've been putting into things was culminating in this moment. You know, and she's hearing me out, and she's not really asking questions, not really saying too much. But as we got closer to home, I said, "Hey, we're almost home. If there's anything you want to talk about," and she said, "I'm just kind of listening to you." And so I said, "Well, I could say a lot more, uh, but it's heavy." And she said, "Well, I want to hear it." So now I've got her ears. So I told her what I had been praying for, been affirming for, all the things that I'd been doing, and how I had all this faith and trust that it would bring us to this moment, and it certainly did. And I felt the moment in the car when all of that energy of us not being a couple dissipated, and she fell completely in love with me again, Sean. I felt the
Beautiful.
moment.
Beautiful.
It
Yeah.
really was a beautiful moment.
Give me goosebumps.
Yeah.
Yes,
But
sir.
but it's not over yet. We got home, and as we got home, as we're talking, we're smooching and catching up and all these things, and
Yeah.
it's a great moment. But I'm thinking, I still have something I need to come clean about.
Yes.
And so I just told her, I said, listen, I've trusted this far. It's got us to this point, and I believe there's a lot of reasons for that. So I need to tell you something, and it's going to be hard for you to hear. So she said, okay. So I told her I'd been unfaithful to her in the relationship beforehand, and I could see her disappointment. But I
Mm,
just told her, I said, I'd like to think that this time apart has given you time to cushion this blow, and that you can see the evidence of all the changes, all the work I've been doing, because I've been trusting for, 7, 8 months now for this moment to come back around. And
mm-hmm.
wouldn't she, and I had affirmed, where she'll forgive me. Everyone around us will forgive, me for anything that they know or anything they hear. Everybody's happy we're back
Yes.
together. Everybody's happy.
Yes.
These are my affirmations.
Yes.
We never broke up. We're happy and thriving together in this family. That kind of thing.
Yes, sir.
And I could see the disappointment, but I told her, I said, I love you and I really want this to work, but I understand if this changes things.
Mm-hmm.
And she looked down for a second, and she looked back up at me with a smile on her face, and she said, I forgive
Mm.
you. And I mean, that if I couldn't tell you, I mean, I did a lot of that affirming, visualization, self talk, I did a lot of that stuff. I might be making it sound like I didn't do the techniques or something. I definitely did techniques, but I don't think it was the techniques. I think it was what I was feeling about them. I think it was what I
Yes.
believed about them. I think it was what I was assigning to them, what meaning. When
Yes.
I'd see a white forerunner, I'd think, oh, she's thinking about me right now. Well, I mean, in hindsight, she said, I thought about you a lot and wanted and thought about reaching out. I just never did. I think that's because she was doing some thinking. Uh, I remember, like our first night or two when we were doing our cuddly thing or whatever. She said, it's almost like we never broke up. And I'm sitting there thinking, we never broke up. We're happy and thriving in our relationship. It's like she's affirming the things I was affirming. that kind of stuff, really, I'd have to think. I could think for a minute and probably come up with tons of examples. Because
Yeah.
every time something happened, I would tell her, "Yeah, I thought about that. I affirmed that. I said this. I said that.
Mm-hmm.
I prayed for
Mm-hmm.
this. I prayed for that." But you, I think you got to set your intention. The thing I really did is I set my intention on us getting back together. It's like I told y'all in the first call I got on. I want to manifest my SP back. Nothing else is at the top of the list but that. After that, we'll figure out everything else. But
Yeah.
that's what I was focused on. I had an intention. I set it. And even when I thought about giving up, I didn't. I persisted. I worked on myself. I loved people where they were at. Um, I forgave people in places that I thought it might. Most people say it's impossible to give that. And then I stayed out of the way. I didn't do anything to make it. I didn't look at his social media profile. I ignored. I unfollowed everybody that knew her, so I couldn't even see her pop up on anything. I didn't
Mm-hmm.
want. I didn't want to see her happy without me. It was a fearful thing at first, but I was getting to a place even that I was ready to start maybe looking just to see how she was doing because I knew I needed to face that fear.
Right.
But it was all those fears and stuff, man, and working on those things and getting that out, man.
Illusions, yeah, wonderful,
Yeah,
wonderful. You said something beautiful. Two things. One, forgiveness heals everything. Even I've been through it. I have firsthand experience with it, and you've been through it and came out the other end of it, where something happens and then the whole family hates you, all the friends, everything, or whatever. And then we have these thoughts that, well, can manifestation fix this? Can I manifest out of this, not only to get the person back, but to change everybody's view about me? And it's all about that internal state. You forgave
yep,
yourself. You held accountability. And people, we all have these subconscious minds. We all have our intuition, and they feel that authenticity. So when you manifested a different version of yourself, it's so easy for other people to forgive you because they
yeah,
feel the authenticity, and
yep,
they also feel that this will never happen again. And there's a difference
yeah,
between telling somebody I'll never do it again and you haven't done the inner work, you haven't changed your self-concept, but they don't believe you, versus
yeah.
I'll never do this again, I'll never walk that path again, and you say it one time and they believe you because it's
They
true.
believe you. Yep.
They believe you. Yeah, it's true. And
I didn't have
so
to beg. Yeah,
no,
none of that. Didn't have to
yeah,
get nobody.
yeah.
It's like your BS meter gets better or something. I
Yeah,
don't know.
yeah. And the technique and the techniques, as you pointed out, the power is never in the techniques. I think our internet, YouTube, TikTok, social media community is very heavy on the techniques. And I know somebody's watching this now and they're like, I did all the techniques. I'm affirming 10,000 times. I'm listening to all the subliminals. The techniques are just there to help you to figure out, as you pointed out, what do you want? Not I want my person back, not I want a text, not I want them to pay attention to me. It is I want the commitment, I want the marriage, go to the end. And then you set that GPS, and then the
Yep.
techniques are there to pull whatever the blocks are that's keeping it from you. So if you're like, I want this person, I want the loyalty, the integrity, then it's like, wait a minute, I need to become that. And then, as every great book, no matter if you have the same Christian backgrounds Richard and I do, Islam, the Quran, the book, Tibetan Book of the Dead, Buddha, all of it is simply using your free will to make a choice. Do I want to go down the path of negativity? Do I want to go down my old path, or do I want to go to this new path? And we always have a choice. The creator, whatever you want to call it, the universe, God, Jesus, Buddha, Krishna,
Yep.
Horus, make a choice. And when you make that choice, the universe will support you no matter what. And it's
I
a
think
wonderful thing. Yeah.
when you live by inspired action, you know what I mean. When you really
Mm-hmm.
you're just not attached to outcomes. You trust that whatever's. I mean, I'm sure bad things are going to come our way. It's great to be married and stuff. But we're going to face challenges and stuff. But my focus now is always maintaining that calm state, the breathing, stuff like that. Get
Yes.
the
All of it plays a part.
regulating that central nervous system, the heart and the mind. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
They're
Mm-hmm.
doing it. They're I, I can't explain all the mechanics, but they're doing the GPS thing's a great example too because I
Mm-hmm.
definitely did some things that got me off course. You know what I mean? I
Right.
tried to date a couple chicks because when I got to a place where I felt like waiting around, they said waiting around ain't gonna make her come back. That's desperate energy. I was like, okay, well,
Yeah.
I guess I should date a little bit. So I tried to go on some dates and stuff and got myself in not much trouble, but a little bit of tiff here and there. But you
Yeah.
know, when all that, I was like, this ain't even what I want. And the reason
Right.
why it didn't work out is because it wasn't what I wanted. I
Mm-hmm.
already set the intention. You won't persist if you don't really want it.
Yes.
I think that if you just keep persisting, and when you get to a place you can't persist anymore, you'll know it's time to let go. But while you
Mm-hmm.
have it in you to still, when your conviction is there, she's coming back. Our
Yes.
family is. I didn't even want to say coming back. I didn't even like to speak it like that. And
Yeah.
my friends, when I would talk about them a little bit in the beginning, they laughed at me. That's why you don't tell everybody what you're up to.
That's
Tell
why
your
you don't
community
tell them.
that.
Yeah.
Tell your community to get support. Don't tell everybody else. Just say, yeah, we're good. Yeah, everything's working
Yeah.
out. And then when it does, you can say, see, I told you. And
Yeah.
that was a fun thing to do. See, I told you it was going to work
Yeah.
out.
It's
But
so much
when I
better.
did, yeah, yeah, it's sweeter that
Yeah.
way. But
Yeah. You
when I
don't tell
didn't
people, you
know,
show them.
yeah, just show them. And even
Mm.
when I didn't know, I knew. I just said, no, Richard, you know this is how it is. This is what it is. I think that's the conviction that I really needed. And I
Yes, sir.
would. I don't say I would have never found that. It just so happened to be finding you led me to that. So,
Wonderful. Love it.
you know what I mean?
Love it. Yes, sir.
I think that's the main thing. You got to set your intention. You got to know it. Work on yourself. Trust your coaches, man.
Yeah.
And there's other people in this group who are giving testimonies. Just what worked for me may not work for you, but whatever works for you will work. You just got to figure that out. That's
Yes,
what
sir.
you're going to get. From coaching and stuff.
Yes,
I
sir.
did the visualization. I did some affirmations. A little bit of scripting. Scripting was harder because it was time intensive for me.
Mm-hmm.
But you just gotta you get to assign meaning to whatever you want. You're the operate power, so you get to do whatever you want. You
Mm-hmm.
get to
Mm-hmm.
decide what everything means. You get to make it up as you go. I guess I don't know how to really
Mm-hmm.
explain.
Mm-hmm.
It's not fiction though. It's not.
Mm-hmm.
It's such a natural process. When all this came together, it wasn't like magic. It was all the circumstances were lining up until boom, we got to talk, and she was ready. Her
Mm-hmm.
heart was prepared. My words were prepared. Everything was ready. I just had to take inspired action, and we got there.
Yes, sir.
And I
Yes,
couldn't be
sir.
more grateful for it, man. I really
Yes,
couldn't.
sir.
It's the happiest.
Yeah.
I've never had God come through for me like that before.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And it says so in the book. Ask whatever you ask for and believe you've received it, and you'll receive it.
Yeah.
And if it's true, if you believe it's true, yeah, I trusted that. I had to trust that it was true. I had to trust that God's word was true, and
Mm-hmm.
so I did, and it worked
Mm-hmm.
out.
Yeah. Yeah. And
So
that's one thing that we pride our community on is that there are the pillars, the key factors to get there. The common denominators are always the same: forgiveness, imagination, becoming. It's always the same. Just like there's core ingredients to making a hamburger. There's
yep,
different ways we're gonna do it. Maybe I'll put pickles on mine. Maybe you don't. Maybe you put lettuce on yours. But at the end, we're gonna have the same ingredients for
have a
a burger. We're
burger.
gonna have the same recipe, and we all get to enjoy that burger. And that's what manifestation is. We're all gonna have, for you and I specifically, it was the forgiveness element. Some people, it's the self worth element. Some people, it is the the limiting beliefs. But it's always going to be the same route there, and it's a beautiful thing. That just effortlessly segues into the next two questions I was going to ask you. How do you feel about the energy of the community? How were you embraced when you first came in? Even with our group coaching, how did you feel when you first came in? What would you describe the energy of the community since you've been with us?
I like everybody on the call has a lot to contribute. They ask questions. They cheer you on. Um, I mean, you want to be if you're going to be a part of a group. It's like I'm going to stay in the group. I mean, I got my SP back, but I'm going to stay with here nor there because I like the encouragement. I like seeing what other people have
Mm,
to say.
mm,
The videos are still valuable for other areas of my life. There's other relationships that me and
mm-hmm.
her are trying to work. We're working on things for other people now. You know what I mean?
Yes, manifesting for others. Yep.
So as far as that goes, you got tons of good energy. So
Thank you.
that's why I chose to be a part of it. Honestly, man, was
Mm,
the energy just for me, just from you, but from the group, I get questions answered. I'm kind of dumb. You know what I mean? I've had to ask some technical questions
yeah.
from you guys. Help me out with this. Give me a link for that.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, man, everybody's good.
Wonderful.
I can really feel how people are really everybody's got something that they truly want. You know what I mean?
Mm,
And I can
mm-hmm,
really feel everybody here really wants what they're wanting,
mm-hmm.
and they really want me to have what I want to have.
Yes.
Uh, nobody's doubting anyone in the group or anything. Not that I can tell or see. The calls are well coordinated, so we're all on mute until someone's called upon, and then we all get to listen to what they have to say. You get to be heard in the coaching calls. Um, you know, I, unless you just want to do it alone, unless you
Mm-hmm,
just want to do it alone, and
mm-hmm.
to each their own, that's perfectly
Yeah.
fine. But you're here for a reason, I'd imagine. So if you
Mm-hmm.
are,
Wonderful.
stay the
Wonderful.
course, and I think the self mastery course is a great thing too. I think
Yeah.
that alone could be, you could do a book on that right there.
Yeah.
There's
Yeah.
so
I
much good
will. I
stuff.
think I will.
It
Yeah.
really, I mean,
Yeah.
honestly,
I
it's
designed it
good.
for, as you pointed out earlier in the interview. I talk about all these things in the videos, but I have some 80 odd videos, and instead of watching that, I condensed all of that knowledge and all that experience and a few things that I don't necessarily talk about in YouTube videos, and condensed all that knowledge there. So it's like you just go there to one source, you can replay it over and over again. There's no
Yeah,
ads. There's no ads popping up interrupting your flow. There's exercises in there because these are the things that I use to transform myself. Because desire is essentially the fuel for transformation.
yep,
As you point out, we want something so bad that deep down, when our heart and mind connects, it says that little small voice in your mind says we have to change, and then that's the fuel that's going to change. Love of my life as well. And as you point out, we talk about other things. We just got off the money call. We talk about
call.
money, entrepreneurship, finding your purpose, because all of these things are designed. This is our celestial playground. We're here
Right.
as spiritual beings, learning through the human lens on how to be the creator and how to appreciate each other as fellow creators. And that segues perfectly into the last question I want to ask you. So for that person that's watching, I'm pretty sure after hearing your story, whoever has any doubts, they're going to just jump in. But for that person that's watching the videos that maybe even had coaching before and didn't really get anything out of it, what would you say to that person that's doubting the process, that may be doubting the platform? What would you say to them to quell their doubts, to help them make that jump from being a passive observer to taking their self transformation into their own hands?
So I think the main thing you got to do is you got to just stay the course, keep absorbing material, keep learning. The times I wanted to quit, I still wanted the content. You know what I mean? I
Yeah.
still wanted to watch videos. I was still watching videos every day. I was still doing breathing. I was still it. I knew it was true.
Mm.
It's what brought me to it. And I think if you're at that place, you're kind of like, I just don't. You might be overthinking things. If you're asking, I didn't really get it, but when you're asking about techniques, when you're asking when it's going to come, I know that's hard because you. That's like, I mean, I didn't know that she was going to come as quickly as she did. But once I got to that place where I got those blocks out of the way, I really feel like I was in that flow state. I was in that elevated consciousness because I was just kind of good with everything. And I think it didn't take very long because of that. So until you get to that place, you shouldn't be asking about the time because you're
Yes.
not good with it yet if you're asking when it's coming. That's
Hmm.
really tough. I know it is. But you got to see it that way. You got to
Yeah.
get to a place where it's like, even if they don't come back, even if I don't get that job, even if I don't, whatever it is you're wanting. Uh, and I even one time remember thinking, well, if someone said, well, maybe something better will come along. I said, I'm not asking for something better. I want her,
Mm.
and I
Mm.
and I rethink that now. I said, it's not manifestation if it's her that I want and I don't get her. I see it differently now because if you if you don't get what you want, what are you gonna do? Just quit your life? You
Yeah.
done with life?
Yeah.
Are
Yeah.
you done with everything? You can't
Yeah.
enjoy nothing anymore?
Yeah.
Uh, Yeah, I think when you see how strong you can be as a person through all the self concept work, through all the development that you get, that's when you get to a place where you're really confident that, hey, I'm good with or
Yes,
without
sir.
something.
Yes,
And
sir.
that's when it'll knock on your door.
Yep.
It was seamlessly, man. Like I said, a kid stopped by. She even told me when I messaged you, I had no idea we'd be getting back together. I was
Yeah.
not even what I wanted. I was actively trying to move on. I didn't want to be with you.
Hmm.
She
Hmm.
didn't want nothing to do with me like that
Yeah.
anymore. That was done for her. You know,
It's
so
magical because I went through the same thing too. Like,
it's what seems like it's magic, but it's so in a certain sense so natural. But
yeah,
when they actually come to pass, and if you quit, if you're asking what time, you're probably not at that place yet with yourself where you're truly good
exactly.
with whatever the outcome is. Until you're good with it or without it. The thing is, if you're good without it, universe is happy to give it to you. God will give you
It's
whatever
a
you want.
paradox.
But if
Yes, sir.
you need it, that means you don't need him. You need that.
Mm-hmm.
That's an idol. When
Mm-hmm.
she was my idol, I couldn't have her anymore. I
Yeah.
lost her. When I released that,
Very
when I took that
powerful.
off of her, man, I wanted Sean. I wanted to die, man. At the
Yeah.
early stages of our breakup, I literally wanted to die.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I could never kill myself. There's my mother to think about, other people, the people who would be devastated by the loss of me, and you as well if you were thinking that. I promise
Mm-hmm.
you,
Mm-hmm.
somebody out there will hurt so bad if you were to take
Yes.
your life. So scratch that. There's plenty more life left to live. And when I got to the place where I knew there was plenty of life left to live without her, now I get to live life with her. She came right on back, and we're
Beautiful.
gonna do all the wonderful things I want to do. I just get to have her by my side doing it now. It's gonna come
Beautiful.
for you. Just stay the course. You got to stay the course. Just stay
Mm-hmm.
the course.
Mm-hmm.
It's coming.
Beautifully
Don't be
said.
impatient.
Yeah. Beautifully said.
And if it don't, the only other thing, all of our time here is finite. When we're gone, that's going to be a whole different thing. If you leave this world without getting what you want, you ain't going to know it. But if you want it,
Mm.
persist. Just
Yeah.
persist. It's
Yeah.
coming. Keep doing
Yeah.
all you can to don't do anything to manipulate anything. Just
No.
do what you feel led to do. It's almost like
Mm.
you don't even really feel led. You're just doing natural. You're just leaving your headphones in the car because you're going to take them in the next morning. Not
Yeah.
even a thing.
Yeah.
It's that simple. Universe does it all for us. He connects all the dots,
Yeah.
living
Just
through
li-
us, living
just like
through you.
just like Amazon. We just
Yeah,
say what we want, and they do the logistics to get it to us.
yeah.
And the
And then
universe
it'll be
does
on
it
the
better because
doorstep
it has been doing it
faster than
way
you
before.
think.
Yeah, exactly.
Faster than you
And
think.
and and it always happens in a way. I'm glad you pointed that out because it's that letting go process that allows it to do what it needs to do. It's just like at our jobs. We don't with supervisors and bosses. We want them to trust us to let us do it. Let us do our task the way we need to do it, and it'll get done in the best way possible. But when somebody's standing over us micromanaging, it makes the process just messes everything
Awful.
up. And so the universe is the same way. Like we don't need to micromanage it. It has been working for all of our ancestors going back until recorded time started all the way up until, and as soon as we leave this earth and our kids and our grandkids, it'll work for them the same way. This mechanism is perfect if we allow it to be. And we just trust the process, set the GPS and just trust the process. And while we're waiting to arrive, we're becoming that person. And ultimately enjoying life. That's the hidden aspect about this is that, as you pointed out, that's why I asked you, how did you feel on the way there? Yes, you go through these dark moments, you go through these moments of, self-deletion and things of that nature and pain, but you get to this beautiful sublime point when you allow manifestation to do its thing where you just feel good. You feel good just walking outside and the sun is shining. Hell, you might feel good if it's
Yes.
raining. You just feel good. And there is no way that I can verbally describe how that feels, but I know how it feels. I know how to
Yes.
guide everybody on how to get there. And all you have to do is just trust the process.
Yeah. Just trust the process.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
telling you, Sean. I'm so grateful, man, because like I said, man, if you hadn't found your way into my feed, man, I don't know that I'd be married today. I really
Mm.
don't. So
Thank you, sir.
hats
I'm
off to
grateful for you
you, to
too.
the work you're doing, to everybody that's in this. Just hang in there. Keep asking questions. It's good. The dots will get connected. Your intuition, as you're growing, becomes sharper. You just start to make connections. The more it's like you can't lift up 100 pounds right away. You know what I'm saying? If you ain't never worked out before, but you keep doing reps, keep doing things, and then all of a sudden you start to feel like, well, I think I'm ready to move to the next level.
Yes,
Your
sir.
intuition's the same way. It just gets stronger. You do things you're led at first, little things, and then I don't know. It just seems to find its way to you if you're focusing on it and putting your attention on it and thinking about it. and being grateful for it. Gratitude is the other part I don't
Gratitude.
think we talked about. Forgiveness, if forgiveness is the thing, is what I needed to release the blockages. Gratitude is how you keep the things that you want.
That's
If
how you
if
keep it.
you if you ain't grateful, if you ain't grateful for a peanut butter sandwich, then you know what I mean. Then you ain't gonna be eating steak every day.
No,
I
that's
don't
right.
know. You got to
Yeah.
be okay with the lows as well as the highs. For
Yes.
the rain as well as the sun. You got to be okay with your sick days as well as your well days.
Mm-hmm.
That's without that polarity, you can't really even understand what it's like to be happy or to know that you have what you.
Yes. Well said. Well
It's
said.
very
Yes,
okay.
sir.
It's okay if you're struggling with your emotions. Just hang in there. They're gonna get better.
Yep. Hang
The
in there.
more you work on it, and the more attention you put on it, the faster that's gonna happen for you.
Yes, sir.
Stay plugged in. Stay plugged
Plugged
in.
in.
I'll be there.
That's it. Well, Richard, thank you once again. It's been a privilege to work with you and also
Yeah.
to interview you. I thank you. And I'm pretty sure probably countless people, somebody special is watching this right now, and you just convinced them to take this journey. And you
Yep.
convince them to walk into a community that's waiting and ready for them, and a teacher such as
Yeah.
myself and my teachers, my coaches that are there to help transition. And once again, the self-concept course with the membership with school, with the community, not only does group coaching, one-on-one coaching come into play, but also the self-concept course, the subliminals, everything that we talked about in this call is a part of the Here Nor There community. Dare I say it, I think I have more content in that community than I do on YouTube. So if you like what you see on YouTube, you like this interview, you like Richard, come on in there, because there's plenty of people just like him in there with just great energy and ready to support. So, Richard,
Yep.
once again, thank you for taking the time. It's been a privilege, sir. And of
Thank
course,
you,
I'll
Sean.
continue working with you.
Thank you,
And thank you
everybody.
for mentoring other people. And thank you and appreciate you.
Yeah, man. I'll see you
All
around.
right. See you around.